And there we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin O'Brien, and this is the Why Our World interview series. In this series of interviews, we're interviewing our users and the general scientific community all over the world. Today, we are joined by Erica, and Erica is joining us from Luanda, Angola. So, hi, Erica. Thanks for joining us. Just give
Hi.
us a quick introduction to yourself, a quick biography.
Okay, so my name is Erika Tavares. I'm 23 years old. I'm a graduate from environmental biology at the University of Nottingham, UK. In 2019, I started a master's in research for ecology and evolution in the Netherlands. But unfortunately, due to COVID, I had no means to continue my studies at the moment. So I returned to Angola for some time because in 2019 as well, I started with some other people in Angola. We started a project for environmental conservation and education, which is called Eco Angola. And ever since I've been developing Eco Angola, and now I work as executive director of the project, which is now becoming an association. 1 year ago, I've also founded a scientific community for the youth here because I felt that unfortunately we do not have enough space for university students to do research, to start their own projects. So the market here is quite open. There's a lot of potential, but there are not opportunities. So I felt that we had to start creating these opportunities ourselves. And now I'm also the president of this scientific community for the youth here. So I think this is a good introduction of myself.
Excellent. So there's a lot of interesting things there we could talk about. But just first off, let's backtrack a bit and just tell us about Angola and Luanda, because many people might not know of it or where it's been in the last few years, or how it has been in the last few years.
Well, there are many aspects that make Luanda different from elsewhere I've been in the world. I was born and raised here, so I already know how it goes. Let's say how it works, how it functions. But it's always a challenge because there are very basic needs that unfortunately are still not being answered. Luanda is quite overpopulated for the amount of land area that we have. And we have a lack of basic sanitation, hygiene, water. There's unfortunately now, due to COVID, a big situation with poverty and hunger. So it's really not looking good. From what I've seen of Luanda, it's been better, but I'm hoping that we will change that in the next few years, because I'm also not just looking for these negative things. I'm also looking for the big community of young Angolans that are trying to do their best in different areas and trying to solve these problems that we have locally. So I would say it's quite an energetic city. It's definitely where I feel home. And yeah, I think it's a place where if you're coming from elsewhere in the world, it will be rough in the beginning because it's quite different with traffic, with pollution, some things that are not so great. But then you also have places that will also make you feel like you're in paradise. Well, if you leave Luanda, like a little bit outside Luanda, and the rest of Angola is beautiful. And that's actually why I wanted to do biology. But I would say that in terms of tourism, it's a place that also has to be a bit more explored. Unfortunately, the market here doesn't really facilitate for people, international people, to move here. But I feel that these bridges are being built with the embassies that are placed here, and a lot of connections with projects. And like I said, a lot of entrepreneurs and new projects that are raising. So I would say that maybe in 5-10 years it will, and I hope that when I see this in the future, I will say, okay, I was right.
Good stuff. So yeah, it's a very large city, Luanda. I think it's like something like 8 million people. Is that right? And that it's growing massively, and that there's the population is growing quite rapidly all across
Yeah.
Angola, and this probably presents a lot of challenges for public health and environmental and planning.
Definitely. We are roughly estimated to be around 8 to 10 million people here. But I would say that Luanda is the smallest, in terms of territory, is the smallest province of Angola, but the one with the biggest amount of people, because it's the place where you have everything centralized. So you have the political capital, the economical capital, like everything is based here. And this is one of our biggest issues. We should decentralize more our services and our governmental uh, offices and things like that, but everything is concentrated here. And even people that live in rural areas believe that Luanda is the place where you can do a bit more. But I would say that it's just been increasing poverty outside the big urban area. You have a lot of slums, and like I said, a lot of places where you don't have urbanization, where you don't have how do I say this, sanitation. uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, basic sanitation. You have problems with water, you have problems with roads. When it rains, everything gets flooded. So basically the city stops. Even in the urban areas, the city stops because it gets flooded. So there are a lot of issues that impact population here, independently of your social and economical background. It will impact you, some more than others, but everyone gets impacted at the end of the day. Yeah.
Angola is actually a large, very, very large country. I think it's the size of France and Spain together, or something like that. It's huge. Just actually give us a sense of what goes on in the rest of the country. Is it like particularly from the point of view of science and sorry, wildlife and natural sciences and ecology?
Well, in terms of wildlife and ecology, I would say that it's beautiful. It's
Mm,
massive. It's unexplored. Although you have some places where there's a lot of natural resources exploration, like diamonds and some other minerals that I don't really recall right now, because it's not really my area, because I always look for the biological resources. But we have a big diversity in terms of biomes. I think one of the most diverse in Africa. We have savannas. What do you call, like? Um, ooh, I'm forgetting the names in English. I've been here for some time, so my mind is thinking in Portuguese now. We have some deep forests, and some like
yeah,
places where you have small niches of oh gosh, well, I'll just say we have a big amount of diversity,
excellent. Yeah,
biodiversity,
yeah. Good.
and like a big diversity also in marine ecosystems. I would say there's a lot to explore, but unfortunately, our research doesn't promote like, how can I say, like universities here and the organizations that could bring a lot more to promote these, unfortunately do not do it. We still have a very bureaucratic country. We still have a big problem with corruption as well. So all of these things kind of impact massively on research. A few weeks ago, I read some news that they were closing research centers here in Angola. So that made me really, really sad, because if we do not have enough, why are we closing the ones we have? So this is one of the many fights I personally have, and also the communities I am leading as well.
Excellent. And you and your colleagues set up Echo Angola to sort of tackle these challenges. So give us a bit more details about this. This sounds like a brilliant plan project.
Thank you. So Eco Angola started just with the idea to promote environmental education. We wanted to awake people's mind and conscious regarding the impact that we have in our resources, and how we could manage these resources well, because we do have the resources, but if we continue to use them um, as if they would not end in 10, 15 years, the next generations will definitely not have these available. And it's not just about the impact on the future, but also the impact that we already have currently with climate change, with the problems for waste management. And there's just an enormous list of environmental impacts that people do not realize that also impacts or affects negatively our economy and our society in general, like public health and
Mm.
everything that we're trying to develop. Um, Unfortunately, people overlook environmental problems and climate change, but this is exactly why we started Eco Angola. And we created a platform. So we started with a website to promote articles that are kind of opinion based, but with scientific background, because we couldn't make a scientific magazine, for example. So it's a place where you can find a lot of resources with reviews and research that is made about climate, environmental, and sustainability topics. Um, we then divided the topics between 6 main categories, which is renewable energies as a solution, waste treatment and recycling, climate change, sustainability, biodiversity and conservation, and I always forget one of them, because it's 6 of them. But if anyone wants to check, you can check on the website, and we have like a plugin that you can change it to English, French, and I think Dutch. But that's how we started, and then we had a very big acceptance. It was well received for the people who also were concerned about this, even people that were not working in these areas. For example, the 2 other founders of Eco Angola are not biologists or ecologists. They work with different areas, but they cared about this. Um, and that's how it started. We are now a community, an active community of around 200 people that produce these content that we publish online on our website and social media. We then started making projects. We wanted to leave the digital market and go to action. So we now have a finance project from the European Union, which is Angola without plastics. Without plastics in the ocean, without plastics in the soil, without plastics in the rivers, without plastics in our bodies, because we want to promote the reduction of single plastics use, and also to promote the opening of industries that can treat and give value to these resources. Because when we use a plastic bag or a plastic bottle, a single-use one, we tend to just literally throw it away, and all the waste is mixed and then just put on a landfill and stays there for years and years and
Mm.
years. And then the rest of the waste, when it rains, it all goes to the oceans. We have like big they're not rivers, like channels that leave the city and enter the sea, and like all the waste is just dumped there, and then everything is just washed into the ocean. So this is a massive issue for us, because we know that all this plastic is impacting marine biodiversity,
Yeah.
and we're the ones also eating that fish that is polluted with plastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's something that we wanted to raise this issue, so people start looking as a means to prevent instead of mitigate. We want to prevent the issue to happen, to reduce the waste, to treat the waste, instead of, for example, getting sick and then spending money to make us healthy again. You know, I think
Mm.
I'm trying to explain like how we want
Yeah.
to to work on this. So that's how Eco Angola started. We also have a project for agriculture, for sustainable agriculture, the permaculture project. We also were able to get financing for that, and that's how we are rolling, basically. Yeah.
Good stuff. Excellent. Just actually, you mentioned a second project that relates to young scientists in Angola. Tell us about that project.
Yeah, that idea actually started when COVID started. I was in the Netherlands, and with the impact that Eco Angola had in my life, I realized that we needed to open more doors for Angolan students that did not have the same opportunities I had. And I was receiving a lot of messages on Eco Angola, that, like, from people doing engineering, architecture, medicine, like different areas of science. And then I realized, well, we kind of need an Eco Angola, but one that's not just focused on the environment, because some people think, you know, we don't care about the environment, it's not my area, but one that I can join all these different areas and develop projects that are sustainable in these different areas. So it's a different way of kind of sending the same message for sustainable development. So that's how it started. I sent out a message on Twitter asking, "Hey guys, anyone wants to join this community? This is the idea I have," and I received a lot of messages from people here. They joined. We have now around 15 to 20 co-founders, and the community is also growing, because within the community we've already developed a few projects. One of the co-founders started a magazine for engineering, the first engineering magazine in Angola. Then another one has a virtual library, because university students here do not have access to some books and information and other people's works, like we have, for example, when I was living in the Netherlands or in the UK, you had like a library within the university that you could use, and it was global. But
Mm.
here you don't have access to these global libraries, so we wanted to try to make our own library and just make it open and free for anyone that's looking for research, that's looking for other things that are produced here as well. Um, then we have just several projects that started, and I feel that it's really important for us to bring these opportunities and to show to these students that if we don't have it done, that means we can make it done. Because if we're needing it, we can do it. And actually, when the next generations come,
Yeah.
like, there will be a different structure for them to continue, for Angolan to progress. So that's our vision, at least. We are now conducting an inquiry about the acceptance of the COVID vaccines in Angola, because most people here did not want to take the vaccine. Everyone was scared. Like, the government was trying to get people vaccinated, but people were just not going to the vaccination centers. And we thought it was quite interesting, because some of the people in the community, Angolans are studying abroad, like Brazil, Hungary, England, and they were saying that in the countries they were, people were making these studies. So we thought, well, why shouldn't we make one about the situation in Angola? And we are now making this entirely digitally and in some places around Luanda specifically. And we want to see how what's the conclusion from these studies, like why are people not accepting. Our hypothesis is the lack of education regarding the vaccination, regarding the secondary effects, and the main goal or the main reason why we should take the vaccine, because unfortunately there's a big problem with fake news, with disinformation, and I think this is one of our main struggles now. It's the fast way of spreading information, and since we also have a problem with education, people are not used to checking facts, to checking resources, to checking where this information is coming from. People just get scared, share, and then scare other people and share, and it spreads quite like the virus, you know.
Yeah.
So we're trying to beat this virus as well.
Good stuff. The just actually, you mentioned about like the project that deals with sustainable development goals, and the programming language has a big overlap with a lot of those sustainable development goals. Just first off, we'll actually talk about R and programming languages and the data to tech community. First off, do you what's your own experience with R or Python?
Well, with R, I've used it when I was doing my degree in environmental biology in the UK. And then I also used it with the masters I started in the Netherlands. I wouldn't say I'm a professional, I'm a very basic user of R.
Yeah.
But I did find it like a very interesting tool to give me the answers for the studies I needed for statistics, to build graphics. It definitely was something that I wanted to continue digging deep and to understand more, particularly because there are not many people that use tools such as these to build their research and to produce statistics for Angola. So it would definitely be a tool that I would have a lot of use of here. But the destiny, at least for now, had told me that maybe I'm not supposed to be a scientist, but maybe I'm supposed to advocate for science in Angola
Okay.
to help, you know, structure this market here, and maybe some other people can do that. So what I'm trying to do is to push that, to make other people do more of that, and see that instead of one person like me doing R, I can make maybe 10, 20 other people do R. So that's kind of why I also changed my focus with research. With Python, I was doing a project in the Netherlands related to ecology, and what I wanted to do was some studies regarding the areas for biodiversity in Angola, because I wanted to see if we were reaching the goals, the IG goals to reach. Now I don't remember the percentage, but to reach a certain amount of area that is protected. And unfortunately, we still do not have that percentage protected. So that was the study that I was building, but I did not finish, like I said. I have a little bit of Python, but I would say I really don't use Python. Yeah.
Just actually, so like broadly around Luanda, do you know, is there an R community, a data science community? Have you, are there other people around that you know of in your city?
Yes, I do. I wouldn't say large, but I would say there's an existing community that I follow through social media. Like Twitter is the place where I find Angolans working with programming and programs such as R and Python. And I've also been trying to connect with them to see if there's a possibility to help like the scientific community find opportunities for other students with a certain level of understanding to continue building on that. um, I don't recall the name, but I know that there's a page that these group of people
Yeah.
were starting to promote data science. I can later give you, maybe it will also be interesting for an interview. There was one girl, a very young girl that I've seen. I don't remember her name as well, but I know I follow on Twitter, that was working with Google here.
Mm.
And it was also something related to data science. But I would say it's like I said, a market that it's you count the amount of people with your
Yeah,
fingers.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we definitely need more of that here. We have a National Institute for Statistics, but unfortunately it's quite how do you say this, when you don't it's like when you don't agree with the stats that they're giving, it's unreliable. So
Okay.
people find the data that they publish a little bit unreliable because of corruption. It's a governmental institute, and sometimes like what we see doesn't really correlate or match the data they give us. So we question a lot. And also just the political history of Angola also makes citizens here question a lot of what comes from the government. But I would say that we definitely need to promote more of data scientists in Angola. It's definitely something that we need and will need even more in the future to continue building um, our science community, our scientific community, just in general in Angola, and to respond to the needs that we have in terms of development.
Great stuff. Just at a practical level, is there places where people meet up, or like meetup venues, or tech hubs, or conference venues like PyCons? Is there anything like that in Luanda?
Unfortunately, not at this moment due to COVID
Okay, yeah,
restrictions. There are a few initiatives online, like on individual platforms. Like I
yeah,
can publish something on Instagram and talk about it, like small discussions, introductions about the theme, because it's being built. It doesn't really exist. It's being built.
okay,
And there are individuals who are trying to leverage to raise awareness about the importance of these areas for development. As far as I know, the tech market here is also growing with the growth of online applications and platforms, but we also have a problem about internet access,
yeah,
and also internet usage, because a lot of people do not have access to internet, but then you have a lot of people who have access to internet but do not give what we think is the right usage. So you would waste 3-4 hours on Facebook, whilst you could take 3-4 hours to read a book online, to watch a TED talk, to
yeah.
it definitely, we feel in general that especially the young community needs more orientation. So we feel that they're frustrated with what's going on in the country, but they also do not have orientation to what they can do with what they have to change it.
I was going to raise that question, like internet access. Is it expensive? Is it high quality? Is it reliable? Obviously, you know, there may be yes and no's there. So just at a practical level, like for if you were studying online courses or something like that, or wanted to take part in virtual events like a virtual conference, what sort of challenges would an Angolan face?
Well, I would say it is expensive if we're talking about, medium to low economical level, because, for example, the lowest salary you can earn here is lower than what you can pay monthly for good internet, for example. Uh,
Wow.
did you understand the
Yeah.
difference? So basically, yeah, it's expensive. um, but there is some initiatives about, putting some online spots around city. Some universities already give access to internet, but then it's not just access to internet, it's also access to a computer or access to a mobile phone, a smartphone that you can use to use that internet. But we still have a lot of problems with connection. Like if it rains sometimes, I wouldn't maybe say the whole country, but like sometimes we have just no internet at all.
Wow.
Or no possible way of making calls. um, so unfortunately it's been like that, particularly with all these other social issues and the impact of COVID in our economics. um, but I really hope that it will change. um, but we need to give access to people to these tools so we can change this more rapidly. It's like we're inside a circle where we don't really know what piece to move first, but we're
Okay.
trying to move some of them when we can. Yeah.
Good stuff. That's a great answer. Just actually moving on to just a quick question. There is that Angola is a Portuguese-speaking country, or as what they say, a lusophone country. Now, in Europe, we sort of think about Africa sort of split between North Africa, French-speaking Africa, and English-speaking Africa. So we sort of forget about lusophone Africa, which is not right. Tell us about like that language aspect, like in terms of your relationship with other countries, like the other countries around you, and relationships, let's say, between European countries or Brazil.
Hmm. I would say that our biggest and stronger relationships are definitely with Lusophone countries, Portugal being the main one, particularly because they were the ones that colonized Angola. We still have a big Portuguese community here. And we still feel the impacts of colonialism here, in every
Mm.
sense. Then I would say, secondly, Brazil. Brazil is also a very, very, very big. We have a big bridge with Brazil, even for research, for private companies, consultancy, for a lot of things. Um, in my opinion, I feel that we do not have enough connections with Lusophone African countries. We do have some connection. I wouldn't say we don't have it at all, but I feel that we could have a bit more, because at the end of the day, they are struggling with some of the same issues that we are. There's a similarity in climate, there is a similarity in history, in war, in the way that these countries were colonized and were independent. There's a similarity in mentalities and education, and I feel that we should connect a bit more with Lusophone countries so we can learn with each other, and teach each other how to raise together and stronger. But in general, I do not see that happen as much as I would like to. With Portugal and Brazil, I would say that the opening is quite large. I am personally, how can I say, my family is a mixed race, so Angolan, Mozambican, Santomese, and then Portuguese. So I have a big mixage of nationalities. Um, but yeah, like I said, I feel that we should definitely build on these bridges. I
Good
feel
stuff.
that we're losing a lot from not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there, like, for example, like connections to Namibia, just south of Angola, or the Francophone countries just north? Is there strong connections there?
I would say the same thing. It's not just with Lusophone countries. I feel that sub-Saharan Africa, Namibia and South Africa, Botswana, yeah, they're really interconnected. But Angola is quite left aside. I think
Hmm.
that the issue comes from like internally. The issue comes from here, particularly with politics.
Okay.
Um, and I feel that we're losing a lot because if we look at Namibia, South Africa, there's a big market for tourism, for example. And we can talk about tourism in Angola, although we have the similar resources or even more than they have and unexplored. So we have a huge market here, but there's a lot of things that stop us from getting there. I'm still trying to understand. Like I said, I'm 23, and this is just the start of understanding how all of this works. But from what I see so far, I would say politics are one of the big things that put us aside and not connecting to other countries. The interests, unfortunately, are not national interests, but individual interests. So I would say this is like one of the biggest issues we have. Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. I just yeah, but we've been talking a good while. I'll just go out one or two questions and I'll let you go. One thing is actually about international travel. For example, if a young researcher from Angola wants to go to a conference in Europe or something like that, do they have a very tough time with visas and all that sort of thing? Like, this has been a sort of a feature of a lot of conversations in the scientific community about the
Um,
disadvantages that African researchers face when they want to go to conferences.
well, personally, because I have the double nationality, Portuguese and Angolan, when I have to go to Europe, I do not have as much struggles. But from only people, for people that only hold Angolan nationality, yes, it is an issue. But it's easier to get out of here than for people that come from outside to enter here. Like I said, it's a very bureaucratic process. I see many international people like struggling with their residency cards, for example. I have friends that have lived here for 15, 20 years, and they still do not have a residency card. Like, it's just not given for no reason. So I think this also impacts a lot in our uh, like in the way that we are perceived, and in the way that these international organizations and other countries are willing to explore the market in Angola, to make a conference, to hold a forum presentially, because just like a normal citizen would struggle to come here, which is sad. It's sad because it also stops us from developing these
Yeah.
other areas. Yeah.
Okay. Just actually, and finally, just actually with regard to the COVID crisis, you've mentioned that it affected your studies, but overall, how is it? We're just as a remark, we are recording this in late April 2021, so we're still in the midst of the COVID crisis. So, how has it affected you and your colleagues in Luanda?
Well, it definitely affected me on a very personal way, because I was concluding my first year in the master's. I was going to do 2 years, and I had to leave right at the end of the
Yeah.
first year. because I was working in the Netherlands. I lost my job. Then I had to make this decision and say, okay, for now, well, pandemics, and we have to, adapt to the situation. Um, but I somehow managed to find another solution that's also re-energizing me and feeling like, well, maybe it was just meant to be. And I'm trying to take all the positive effects from the COVID. It's quite weird to say this, but it made me realize that there was a lot more that I was not seeing. There was a lot more that, I also needed to come here and get a bit more of the market sensitivity to understand where I could point my studies to. Like I said, I think I moved a bit outside research to more advocacy, to push this out, to make more people do it. I didn't feel that becoming a scientist in Angola would have the impact I want to have in Angola with the privilege I have to study abroad and the
Yeah,
energy in
yeah.
itself. In terms of like the country, the population, it's a very, very sad situation. Poverty increased, hunger increased, just social issues, and the economical crisis we were already going through, and the COVID crisis are definitely more visible now. It's quite hard for me, particularly, to go outside and see all of this happening right in front of my eyes and not being able to do something. Now I know that I'm doing something that can have a long-term impact, but I feel that the government should take a bit more responsibility to answer to these problems. um, but I would say that as an environmentalist, I would say that one of my main concerns is the amount of plastic being used. So people are just, using a lot of face masks, the plastic ones, and
Mm.
gloves, and some people, because of the lack of awareness around the pandemics, around COVID, sometimes people just, in my opinion, it's kind of, they overdo it. They overdo in the amount of protection that they want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
use,
yeah.
and use something for a little bit of time, and then they're afraid, and then it's just one person is just producing a lot of waste, and all this waste is not being treated. So we will definitely have, and we already do have, a raise in the amount of waste in landfills and in the sea. Uh, a week or 2 weeks ago, we had a big rain in Luanda, in the capital, and all the streets were just filled with trash because the waste was not being collected for four
Okay,
months.
okay.
So we had a big flood with trash. And now my main concern is the public health. I'm afraid that we might have like an epidemic of cholera, of some other infectious disease, or that can also impact us even more. So like I said in the beginning, I feel that we could prevent it. And also malaria is
Mm.
one of the diseases that kills the most here. So with the floods, with the waste, everything mixed up, it's like a cocktail for a disaster. And I wish we could have avoided that if there was a bit more of um, political responsibility. Yeah.
Good stuff, Erica. That was been a great talk. This is a really great interview. You've given us a great insight into this, like the scientific community and of Angola. Thanks very much. I think we will leave it there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And I hope people research Eco Angola. We're open for feedback. We're open for collaborations. We're open for financing. Like, if there's a way you think you can help us anywhere in the world, do check on us, make a link. We're open to it. And I feel that if we want to not just help Angola, but help the world become a better place, we could all just, contribute with our knowledge and our energy to connect to each other and make this happen. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you
Great
very
stuff.
much.
Thanks very much. Bye bye. I'm just going to
Bye.
stop the recording now. Yeah, that's great.